After World War II ended in 1945, the world hoped for peace. But a different kind of war was just beginning. A war not fought on traditional battlefields, but in boardrooms, back channels, and the minds of billions. A global confrontation between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. On one side was the United States, the leading force of capitalism and democracy. On the other stood the Soviet Union, Russia and its allied communist states, driven by a mission to expand their ideology. The world was no longer at peace, but a chessboard of power plays and influence. Thus began the Cold War. Much of what you're about to hear, you may already know. Some of it you might have studied in school or seen in old documentaries, but in today's world where global power is shifting once again, revisiting these key events and understanding the strategies behind them is more important than ever. Because some details, some lessons are too important to forget. This is the story of the Cold War, a battle for influence, for ideology, and for the soul of the modern world. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss upcoming episodes. Seeds of division. Tensions were already simmering before the last bombs of World War II dropped. During the Yalta and Potsdam conferences in 1945, Allied leaders tried to decide the future of Europe, but mistrust ran deep. The US feared Stalin's hunger for power. Stalin feared Western betrayal. After the war, the Soviet Union installed communist governments in Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, East Germany, and others. These countries became the Eastern Bloc. In response, the US adopted a strategy of containment, vowing to stop communism from spreading. The Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan poured billions into Western Europe's recovery, but they also deepened the divide. The Iron Curtain had fallen. Nuclear arms and space race. In 1949, the Soviets detonated their first atomic bomb, ending the US monopoly on nuclear power. What followed was a terrifying arms race. Both sides stockpiled thousands of nuclear weapons, enough to destroy the planet many times over. This doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, meant that if either side launched, both would perish. Yet this very fear may have prevented World War III. The competition extended beyond Earth. In 1957, the USSR launched Sputnik, the first satellite. America responded with NASA. The race to space became a symbol of technological and ideological supremacy. Proxy wars around the globe. Though the US and USSR never fought directly, their conflict exploded in other lands. In Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and across Latin America and Africa, local wars were fueled by Cold War ideology. The Korean War in the 1950s left the peninsula divided, south backed by the US, north by the Soviets and China. In Vietnam, the US fought to stop communist expansion but suffered a painful, costly defeat. The war deeply divided American society and showed the limits of military might in ideological conflict. Meanwhile, the USSR funded revolutions and propped up regimes across the globe, from Cuba to Angola. Every spark risked igniting global war. Espionage and propaganda. The Cold War wasn't just fought on battlefields, it was waged in shadows. Spies became legends. The CIA and KGB orchestrated coups, sabotage, and intelligence missions worldwide. Defectors switched sides, agents infiltrated governments, secrets were currency, and paranoia ran high. Even in Hollywood and classrooms, propaganda shaped minds. Cultural battles also played out in sports, art, and science. From Olympic boycotts to Hollywood films, both sides fought to win hearts and minds at home and abroad. Crisis points. Several moments brought the world terrifyingly close to nuclear war. In 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis nearly pushed humanity over the edge. Soviet missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from US shores, led to a 13-day standoff. The world held its breath. At the last moment, diplomacy prevailed. Berlin also became a flashpoint. The city was divided, West free and capitalist, East under Soviet control. In 1961, the Berlin Wall went up overnight, symbolizing the physical and ideological divide of the Cold War.
The Cold War winds down. By the 1980s, the Cold War was draining both sides. The Soviet economy was crumbling. The U.S., under President Reagan, launched a military buildup and introduced the Strategic Defense Initiative, nicknamed Star Wars. But change was coming from within. Mikhail Gorbachev, a reformer, introduced perestroika, or restructuring, and glasnost, meaning openness. These reforms unleashed demands for freedom across the Eastern Bloc. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. One by one, Eastern European communist governments collapsed. In 1991, the Soviet Union dissolved. The Cold War was over. For over 4 decades, fear and ideology shaped global decisions. Millions died in proxy wars. Billions lived under the threat of annihilation. But in the end, the war ended not with a bang, but with change, courage, and collapse from within.
Lessons from the Cold War. The Cold War wasn't just a geopolitical struggle, it was a test of systems. 2 grand ideologies, communism and democracy, faced off on a global stage, each promising a better future for humanity. In the end, it was not military might or propaganda that decided the outcome. It was flexibility, freedom, and the ability to evolve that allowed democratic societies to adapt, grow, and ultimately thrive. In contrast, the rigid, centralized control of communist regimes led to economic stagnation, suppressed voices, and eventually collapse.
Today, while some nations still cling to one-party rule and state control, the lessons of the Cold War echo louder than ever. The modern world is driven by innovation, transparency, and global collaboration, qualities best nurtured in open societies. Democracy is not perfect, but it allows for self-correction, accountability, and citizen participation. In the long run, it is these qualities that ensure stability, prosperity, and freedom for future generations. The Cold War has ended, but its legacy remains a warning and a guidepost. For those still walking the path of authoritarianism, history offers a simple truth. The power of the people, when free, will always find its way forward.
Next episode preview. In our next episode, we turn our focus to the East, where China, once a quiet observer, began rewriting its future. From Mao to modernization, we'll uncover how China positioned itself as the third power in this global game. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot.